Hey everyone, on today's YouTube we are going to make this cool looking sandpaper tower. I wanted to come up with a design that was a little bit more interesting and something that wasn't so boxy and boring. This is made for 6-inch discs. It'll work just fine for a 5-inch. I'm going to put a link in the description below where you guys can go download the plans for free. It's a real simple project to make. You can have it done in just a couple hours and store your sandpaper nice and neat. So without further ado, let's get building. So the first thing I'm doing is grabbing my plywood. I'm using 1/2-inch plywood. You can use 3/4, whatever you have lying around your shop. And I'm cutting a piece to length for the two sides. It's wide enough to trace my template on either side, so I know that they'll both be the same height now. Then I'm going to head over to the bandsaw and cut out the shape. Here I'm just trying to align the fence to see if I can get a straight cut near the front portion of the leg. And then from here on out, I'll cut the curves out and do my best to leave the line showing. And then that way, when I'm done, I can head over to the sander and sand down to the line, both of them, and try to make them nice and even on the sander. It's really not overly that important for a project like this, but you still try to make your work look neat. Once again, here I'm adjusting the fence to try to get a straight cut near the front of the opposing leg, creep up on that line, and now I'll just move it out of the way and cut the curve, again trying to leave the line. With the legs cut, I used some double-sided tape, stuck them together, and then I went over to the drum sander and did my best to sand them flush, sand down to the line to make them look nice and neat and even. I then went over to the table saw to start cutting the dados. Now, I fully admit right now that this is not the most economical way to do it, but unfortunately my dado cartridge for my saw stop has not come in yet, so I'm stuck doing the single blade method. And I would just make a cut, take the other leg, make the same cut, and keep moving the fence a little bit at a time until I got a nice snug fit for the shelf. Once I got that, then I would adjust the fence further to move on to the second shelf, and so on and so on. Again, not the most economical way to do it, but in the moment you make do with what you have. You'll notice a small change now as the dados start moving further and further away. I've switched from the Milescraft push stick to the Milescraft Grabber Plus. I did this because the Grabber Plus gives me a little bit more stability and security of keeping pressure against the piece, against the fence all the way through for a straight cut. Whereas the push stick, you could get the feeling that you could possibly move it or twist it a little and could cause a little kickback. So this has given me that extra safety and extra security as I finish these off. One thing to keep in mind when you're doing this is to remember that there is a left and a right leg. So pay attention that when you're doing the dados that they're going on the inside part of the leg. And now with the final cut, I've got all the dados cut for both shelving. They're each on the inside, line up perfectly. So now let's do a dry run of the shelves. With the shelves in place, I'm simply marking where they meet flush. Remember, there's a curve on the front of each shelf that protrudes a little, but the curve ends where it meets flush. Taking my bendable tool to mark out the curve, and then I'm going to head over to the bandsaw and cut them all out. For those who are curious, this is a 14-inch bandsaw. It's the Rikon 10-326. I'm using a 1/2-inch 4 TPI blade. Honestly though, if the project was a lot bigger, I would have swapped it out for a 3/8 3 TPI because a 3/8 blade gives me better versatility cutting curves. But for the amount of time that I'm on it for this project and for what the project is, I was fine fighting through using the 1/2-inch. And just like I did with the legs, I'm going to hit all the shelves on the sander, sanding down to the line to make them look nice and neat and clean. Next up, I'm going to sand every piece prior to putting it together. Now, I know that that sounds like a real hassle, but trust me, it's a lot easier to do it now because when it's together, it's not really accessible. I grabbed a piece of 120 grit from Orca Abrasives and I started sanding down each piece. This is their new purple disc line, and I'm telling you, it did not disappoint. I appreciate them letting me try it out. It was by far some of the best sandpaper that I've ever used. Typically, I use their green paper line, and I've loved that since I started using it, and this stuff is that much better. So if you're interested, click in the link below. Try it out. You definitely won't be disappointed. This stuff is amazing. Next up is assembly, and for this I'm just using some CA glue. I have Starbond Adhesives medium thick clear, and I'm going to put the glue part in the dado, spray the edges of the shelves with the accelerant, and put them together until they hold nice and firm. And for what this project is, honestly, this is really more than sufficient. If you wanted to tack some nails in, I guess you could, but I think that you'll see in the end that it is plenty strong and holds just well, especially for what it's meant for. Now the only thing left to do is to load it up. Grab some 40, 60, 80, 120, 220, and 320. I'm good to go. So that's it for the build. As you can see, it's pretty simple and straightforward, but at the same time, it has a cool modern look to it with the curves, a little eye appeal. So I'm going to post a link below where you can get it. I want to thank Orca Abrasives for teaming up with me on this build because they helped take some of my thoughts and put it into reality. The plans are going to be available for free, so check the link below. While you're there, definitely go check out some of their purple discs. This sandpaper is amazing. It is definitely some of the best sandpaper that I've ever used. So make sure you pick this stuff up, and we will see you next time.